Hello and welcome. I'm Kriti Mehta and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's start with a check of the top headlines this hour. British police arrest former Prince Andrew Mountbatten Wednesday on suspicion of misconduct in public office linked to allegations over his past ties with Jeffrey Epstein. Prime Minister Modi unveils India's Manav vision, standing for moral, ethical and human-centric AI at the AI Impact Summit in New Delhi, promoting inclusive and responsible global artificial intelligence. French President Emmanuel Macron praises India's digital public infrastructure as a global benchmark and hailed its pioneering role in combining technology with humanity at the ongoing AI Impact Summit in New Delhi. US military forces are prepared to launch strikes on Iran as early as this weekend, according to multiple reports, as President Trump weighs possible action amid stalled nuclear talks. Former South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol sentenced to life imprisonment after a court found him guilty of leading an insurrection through his brief 2024 martial law declaration. Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates pulled out of his keynote address at India's AI Impact Summit just hours before it was due, as his foundation cited the need to keep focus on the event's priorities amid fresh Epstein scrutiny. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg has testified in a landmark US social media addiction trial, facing questions over whether Instagram was deliberately designed to be addictive and harmful to children. Bangladesh's new sports minister has signaled a quick reset in cricket ties with India following recent T20 World Cup tensions after holding talks with Indian diplomats to resolve disputes through friendly dialogue. And viewers, on to our top focus story for the day. UK police is searching two addresses in Berkshire and Norfolk following the arrest of former UK Prince Andrew Mountbatten Wednesday on suspicion of misconduct in public office after investigations made by Thames Valley Police. Revelations from the Jeffrey Epstein files suggest Andrew may have sent potentially confidential documents to the convicted sex offender while serving as a UK trade envoy. Police have said investigation and searches at the addresses are ongoing as they review evidence. The case follows increasing scrutiny of Andrew's public and private dealings. Andrew Mountbatten Wednesday became the first senior royal in modern history to be arrested. The arrest occurred on his 66th birthday and followed a police raid at his Wood Farm residence on the Sandringham estate in Norfolk, where plainclothes officers and unmarked vehicles were seen. Without confirming the identity of the man arrested, the police statement read, "A man in his 60s from Norfolk has been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office." As per many international media reports, it is in fact former Prince Andrew Mountbatten Wednesday who remains in police custody in relation to the case and has strongly denied any wrongdoing. Assistant Chief Constable Oliver Wright said the investigation was opened after a thorough assessment, emphasizing the need to protect its integrity and objectivity. At the moment, the UK police have warned against publishing material that could lead to contempt of court and promised updates at the appropriate time. Keith Walsh, former British minister, live from the newsroom, is with us. Thanks very much, Keith. It's a pleasure to have you here at NewsX. Big development coming in, a precedent really being set by the United Kingdom. First time that a monarch has been arrested, and that too in connection with the Epstein files. What's your first take?
I think firstly we have to understand that this is the start of the process. There is no question that this is a hugely important day and this is a bombshell that has happened in terms of the news. No one would have expected that the brother of the king, the son of the late queen, someone who is in line to the throne, would have been arrested by the police for any offence. This is a specific offence. It's a narrow offence which will require the police to investigate this very carefully. The point of arresting a suspect is you then have to be able to comment. They can comment on what's happened. They will of course be entitled to legal representation, and then the decision will be made by the Crown Prosecution Service, which is a completely separate body, which acts actually bizarrely in the name of the king. That's why it's called the Crown Prosecution Service, that will decide whether or not to actually prosecute. This is a very serious offence, and at the moment he's been arrested but not charged, as far as I understand.
Yeah.
So after the interview has happened, he will then be released on bail, because everyone will know where he is and everyone knows who he is. He's one of the most famous men in Britain, and people have known him from his birth, so they know who he is. So I would imagine there will be no difficulty in his legal representatives getting bail for him. What happens after that is something that we will have to see what the police say, but it's important not to comment during the middle of these investigations. But in terms of a news story, it is obviously absolutely massive.
It's also interesting how the police have not named him yet, have only said that a man in his 60s has been arrested. So clearly a lot has been done to protect the identity of the former prince. But let's also remind our viewers, he has been stripped of his royal titles. How do you weigh this extraordinary treatment being meted out to him? Because let's be real, at this point in time, when he is arrested, he is not holding a royal title.
Well, that's what the police normally do. The police don't say X, Y, and Z have been arrested normally. That's exactly what they do. They say a person and they give an age. But obviously someone has leaked this information to the press, otherwise we wouldn't be talking about it. I don't think that there is another man in their mid-60s in Norfolk who they're talking about. I think this particular man. And I would have imagined that they would have done this very carefully. As you know, he's recently moved out of the Windsor Castle estate at very, very short notice. They would have almost certainly informed the king. I can't imagine them, this is me guessing, but I can't imagine them not to have told him. And I would imagine the Prime Minister would know, because after all, Andrew, whether he is Prince Andrew or Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is still in line to the throne of England. Way down the list, of course, but he still potentially could become the King of England. So for all those reasons, I think they are just following their normal protocol. They never announce who a suspect is until after they've charged the suspect. If he is charged, of course, he will be named.
Right, Mr. Vaz, now the Epstein files itself, they've opened a Pandora's box. Do you think the details that could now emerge from the interview of Andrew by the police could reveal more details, particularly as far as his ties with Ghislaine Maxwell are concerned? Already there is public knowledge of the fact that they were college buddies. They knew each other from back in the day when they were studying together. What more do you think can really come out from this investigation of the former prince?
I like the way you use the phrase Pandora's box. This is not a box anymore. This is an ocean of files. Millions and millions of files cannot even begin to fit into a box of whatever size. It's huge, and there are still more. As we know, there are still millions of files that are being held by the Justice Department that have not been released. So goodness knows what else is going to be in those files when they are released. If the police take a statement from Andrew, they will not release that statement. The first time we will hear what he says is if it gets to court. There's no guarantee that it will. There is a due process of law here, which the police will follow very, very carefully. They will not cut corners, they will not do anything differently. This will all be done according to agreed steps, and we will not see those statements anyway until the trial, if there is going to be a trial. And we don't know until the police prepare a file, give it to the Crown Prosecution Service, and they decide they're going to prosecute. It's going to be at least, I think, a year before we know whether there's going to be a trial or not. This is my guess, as a former lawyer of many, many years ago. So, you know, I'm not practicing on this, but there is a process that they will follow very carefully.
Right. Also, it's the first time that a former prince's residences are being searched now. What kind of precedence is this going to set? And what do we really know about, as of now, whether he's still in touch with his brother, the king, or do you think they've safely distanced themselves from the accused?
I don't know. They're siblings, and they, according to, you know, reports, we don't know for fact because they don't talk about this. They have not. They're not. They may be brothers, but they're not buddies. And of course, there was that standoff over whether or not Royal Lodge would be handed back to the Crown. So, as far as we've seen, and as far as we glean, when Prince Andrew wants to ring the king, he doesn't pick up the phone and ring him. He has to go to his private secretary, when he had one, who talks to the king's private secretary, who tells the king and all that kind of stuff. So we don't know. We're all speculating. We've no idea whether or not they've been in touch with each other. I would think that the most they can do, after all he is his brother, is to make sure he has proper legal representation. And I would imagine, and again this is only a guess, that he would have had his lawyers on hand when the arrest took place. I would imagine that's exactly what has happened.
But take us through, Keith, how did the police really get here to this stage also? Because right now, as you said, and we all know there has been no trial. What evidence has really promulgated the police to get to this stage where this man has been arrested?
Well, they will eventually make a statement, I'm sure, because they have to quell these guessing games that are going on, and you and I are both doing the same thing now, and this is happening in news studios all over the world, especially in the United Kingdom. I'm sure they're all asking the same questions. At some stage they're going to have to make a statement, but they're treating him like anyone else. They're not naming him, they're giving his age roundabout, and they are saying that what the likely offence is, which is misconduct in public office. It's a very, very narrow offence. You've got to have willfully abused your position as a public official in order for these charges to be made and for them to stick. This is not about, oh, I had just a conversation, I didn't know what I was saying. It's got to be willful. There's been a new code of conduct, as I've said, on this. So the police will look at this very, very carefully indeed before they take anything else out from it. But there's no doubt this is a huge story which is going to capture the imagination of people of Britain and indeed all over the world.
All right, now as much as it is a disgrace for Andrew, his ex-wife and children would also probably be suffering from the embarrassment that he has brought to the royal family. What kind of protection will be accorded to them, if at all?
I've no idea. I think his wife is no longer a member of the royal family, therefore she's not going to get any protection as such, and his daughters are princesses because that's what they were born, princesses, but the king has decided to leave the titles with them. This is all to do with the archaic historical traditions of United Kingdom royalty, which goes back centuries. So I'm sure they will be they will be notified in the proper way, and they will take whatever action they need to protect themselves. This is not a new story. This is an old story. It's been going on for years, but this is a new and shocking development. What's new about it is the new files that have been released and the new offence that is being talked about, not the old offence which the police would have combed over very carefully in the past.
Mr. Vaz, there's also a question on the huge debt that Andrew has on himself as of now. How do you think that is going to be furnished?
I've no idea what his financial circumstances are. One can only guess. As a family, of course, as we know, because this is in the public, as a family, they are one of the richest families in the world. So I would imagine that he will be able to fund this, and I would imagine members of his family would help him, as anyone else would. They wouldn't not do it. You remember famously that when he needed to settle the case that was brought against him, the money was lent to him by his mum, who just happened to be the Queen of England. So it's happened before, and he will get that representation, I'm sure. Because as you say, it's also the reputation of the royal family. And in these circumstances, I would imagine that they will want to help him. But I don't know. Again, we're only speculating. He might have his own resources. He might have his own ability to pay. I have no idea. But I don't think he'll get legal aid because I think that he probably will not be in that category.
All right, Mr. Vaz, thanks very much for speaking to us on this. And with that, viewers, we're now going to proceed to news from Russia. Russia has now agreed to establish an economic working group with the United States, according to Russia's Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov. The move is seen as a step toward maintaining limited dialogue despite sharply strained relations between the two countries. Officials say the group will focus on economic issues of mutual interest, even as disagreements persist over security and geopolitical matters. Moscow stressed that the initiative does not signal a broader reset, but rather a pragmatic channel to manage select areas of engagement. Officials say the timing and agenda for the working group are yet to be finalized, with both sides emphasizing that any progress will depend on tangible outcomes and continued diplomatic contact. Joining me now for this discussion is Dr. Gilbert Doctorow. He's a Russian affairs expert. This is a welcome development. Would you say, Dr. Doctorow, that Russia and US are now going to establish an economic working group? What kind of challenges will probably come out of this arrangement?
I'd like to make it clear, from my perspective, this is just a public relations exercise. To talk about common economic interests when the United States continues to be applying draconian sanctions against Russia is an irrelevancy. To speak about the great projects for exploring mineral wealth in the Arctic, that is just a nice story for children. The reality is the United States and Russia are in a virtual state of war. And so all talk about economic cooperation is utter nonsense. If it serves the purposes more of Mr. Trump, just as he talked about the wonderful rare earths that he would get from Ukraine to pay the United States back for what he said was a $350 billion debt that they have to the United States. That was all just talking point. It was something to keep the journalists busy in the States, but it had no relevancy whatever to the real world. Something much more important that your viewers should be aware about is the release of a paper by Kaja Kallas, who is the European Union's senior diplomat and vice president of the European Commission, setting out the terms under which Europe would participate in peace negotiations between Ukraine and Russia, and insisting that without European participation, there can be no peace. Those terms are reparations from Russia, Russia withdraws, Russia has a small army. This it shows that in the presence of configuration in Europe, Europe is only working against the peace. And the senior diplomat of the European Union has to be removed if there's any chance for peace to take place.
All right. Thanks very much, Doctor, for your comments. You are requested to stay on as we proceed now. Viewers, Russia has accused Europe of deliberately making it harder to reach a peace agreement on Ukraine. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Alexander Grushko has said that Europe's real policy appears aimed at prolonging the conflict. Grushko said Russian officials are closely monitoring European statements on negotiations. He added that the West wants the conflict to continue as long as possible. He stressed that if Europe continues this approach, it raises serious questions about the continent's role and contribution to any peace process. He warned that Europe's stance could obstruct efforts to reach a settlement, making talks more difficult. Request Doctor to join me back in the discussion here. Doctor, while Zelensky is accusing the United States of siding with Russia, Russia is accusing Europe of siding with Zelensky. Ultimately, there's a deadlock. There is no peace in sight. The war is now going to complete 4 years of Russia's full-scale invasion. People from Ukraine say the war, in fact, began in 2014. So many years, so many times that Donald Trump has gone on to claim that he's working to arrive at at ceasefire as soon as possible, at peace, but really no effort, no outcome is apparent.
Let me give your viewers an assurance. The end of the world is not nigh. The end of the war is nigh. And there is a power struggle going on in Kiev right now between Mr. Zelensky and people who view this differently. The president's head of his offices, that is Mr. Budanov, who formerly was the chief of the Ukrainian military intelligence, he is taking a stand against exactly what Zelensky is saying. He said we should give up the Donbass right now. And he's not alone in fighting for power against Mr. Zelensky today. Our Western newspapers speak about the former general Zaluzhny, who is now the Ukrainian ambassador, a man in exile, one can say, in the United Kingdom. He is also now actively contesting Mr. Zelensky's power. So there will be a resolution within Ukraine, and I don't think that Mr. Zelensky will last very long. So the problem is not an official one. Nor will the Ukrainian forces against Russia in the Donbass last very long. Whether they voluntarily leave, as the Russians have requested and Mr. Budanov has accepted, or whether they will force their way to the Dnieper River with great destruction for the remaining Ukrainian forces, that is something that we can only guess at. But I can tell you right now that what Mr. Grushko said is perfectly accurate. And so that your audience understands who Grushko is, let me say, is more than just a deputy minister of foreign affairs. He was here for about 4 or 6 years in Brussels as the Russian ambassador to NATO. And I met him here. And I can tell you that he is a Western thinking man, a man who very much wants peace with Western Europe. And if he is saying what you have quoted, then it shows how desperate the EU is under the administration of Ursula von der Leyen and her deputy Kallas to destroy the peace efforts.
All right. Thanks very much, Doctor, for joining us once again. And viewers, moving ahead now, French President Emmanuel Macron and Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva have met in New Delhi during the India AI Impact Summit, focusing on AI governance, technology and defense partnerships. Summit at the Bharat Mandapam is one of the largest AI gatherings in the global south, bringing together world leaders and tech innovators. Macron visited Mumbai before Delhi, engaging with students at AIMS and participating in high-level talks with Lula, while Lula arrived February 18 for a state visit focused on bilateral trade. The meeting highlights India's growing role as a technology hub, with France and Brazil seeking to strengthen partnerships in AI ethics and sustainability. On the sidelines, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman and Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei generated headlines by refusing to hold hands during the group photo, sparking social media buzz showcasing their AI rivalry. Moving ahead now, Germany has clarified it has no plans to purchase additional F-35 fighter jets despite earlier reports suggesting otherwise. A government spokesperson confirmed on Thursday that there is currently no decision on ordering more aircraft. Sources had indicated that Berlin was in discussions that could lead to acquiring more than 35 additional jets built by US contractor Lockheed Martin, but outcomes remain uncertain. Germany had previously ordered 35 jets in 2022 to modernize the Luftwaffe and uphold NATO nuclear sharing commitments. Deliveries of these aircraft are expected to begin later this year. And viewers, that's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.